Hello, this is the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I'll be talking about one of my all time favorite Stephen King novels, a video game that flat out deserves a remake, and the final volume in the Dragon Ball manga. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified when future episodes are released, and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. Is anyone else a fan of camping? I've been camping recently for the last few years, and I already have more trips planned now that the weather has cleared up and becoming so much nicer. So I'm excited to experience all that again this year and share that all with you. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is one of the most overlooked Stephen King books that has ever been written, and that's The Long Walk. As a kid myself, I would be outside all the time. And one time, me and my friend Steve, we chose to walk for as long as we can from early in the morning and just go, And we went for about 18 hours, from 8 a.m. to a little after 10 p.m. And that was maybe a total of 20, 30, 40 miles, something like that. We ended up looping quite a bit in some developments, but we tried to get to the end of our town just by walking with sidewalks and on the side of the roads and stuff. And our feet were aching to the next day, like awful. And like we weren't like at the time we weren't super athletic, so like going for that long, we weren't super used to that. I'm sure other people, for 24 hours that's totally fine, but the premise of The Long Walk by Stephen King is you have to walk a minimum of 4 miles per hour nonstop against a group of other contestants, other boys around the ages of 16 or 18, and you can't stop. You can't stop walking. They have to continuously walk for until the last one drops, until there's one man standing. And as a person who grew up hearing about Stephen King movies and how influential and all they are to horror, one of the biggest surprises was that his books, The Long Walk, under the pseudonym Richard Bachman at the time, is so overlooked. And I don't even mean just by scares or like being something that's a horror story or anything like that. This is just a pure good thriller in a somewhat dystopian American world. It's treated as like a contest, like people can sign up just to do this, young boys, and they could just go off and do this contest, and people watch it. Like they sit in their houses and their lawns, the side of the road, and as the kids walk through the cities and towns, there's people cheering for them, people who are from the towns and states that they're from, if they walk past or through them. And I don't know why this just hasn't been adapted into anything yet. I don't know why it hasn't been a TV show or a movie, because it's such a simple premise. And I think it's really thrilling and actually really entertaining. You just get some really good moments out of these characters. You get a lot of good small, tiny moments with like the main character, Ray Garrity. He's the character that you kind of get the more internal monologues for. He's the main character in that sense. Otherwise, it's like more of a traditional third person kind of narrative. It's kind of like him telling the story for the most part. And we get Peter McFries. He's really fun. Steven. Some of them are antagonistic, so you get these young boys who have these different reasons for being there, and they all have different like goals and aspirations. And the prize is whatever they want. It's known pretty early in the book that if you live through the long walk, you get whatever you want. Like I assume for life, they don't say it or anything, but they just call it the prize, and it's very not very talked about. So yeah, I'm just here to talk about The Long Walk because this needs to be made. Stephen King or any of the four directors who've been chosen. We've had George A. Romero, Frank Darabont, uh, Kirby Highborn, and it looks like Francis Lawrence. That these people are working on it, and you guys need to hurry up. Over the last few years, these have been the people that I guess been selected to oversee the production of these movies, and it needs to hurry up. They need to hurry up and do that. Someone needs to buy the rights to it or get it from Stephen King because I just think this needs to happen. Now, the book was written in a like perspective of the 80s because that's when it was published and came out. So the technology and like the viewpoint there is, obviously very skewed for being a book from 40 years ago. So, but if I could make my own Long Walk adaptation, I would treat it like a much bigger sporting event than we kind of see in the book. I would have like, drones like flying and like watching the people one by one as they're walking together, or have things like modern watch tracking devices or like the ankle bracelets, so that they can monitor their speed. Because they don't really talk about that. They don't talk about how they're being monitored for how fast they're going. There's these like RV, Humvee with soldiers on the side of the road, and when a kid gets three strikes, three tickets, uh, they end up getting shot and killed, or so that's what happens when you slow down or you don't make pace in the long walk. And I think adding to that kind of flair would make the long walk feel a little more real, especially in a more modern setting. And you can get them like go through like bigger cities, like even New York would be crazy. It's more set up in the main background. Obviously that's where Stephen King does all of his stuff, and they go through you know a few states around there. So yeah, this is very similar to the Hunger Games in some regard, and anyone a fan of that or any other kind of like dystopian or contest kind of media out there, The Long Walk is a banger of a book, and it just needs to be made into a visual media. I just want to see it happen a little more. This is one of the books that needs to just not be overlooked, especially because of such a prolific writer and all of his things are known. Like, why isn't all of his stuff just automatically being adapted? Maybe he's not doing it or anything, but I would love to see this just become a thing, and that's just me. And besides the long walk, right now I'm reading Starship Troopers. This is to me one of the books that I've been dying to read for a very long time and just haven't gotten to, of course. So I've seen the movie, obviously. As a little kid, I watched that probably, I was 7 or 8, and phenomenal movie, one of the best science fiction movies you could ever go to see. And I've always wanted to read the book that it was based off of, and I've heard that the book and the movies aren't super one to ones. That's what really got me into it. So now that I picked it up, that's the book that I'm going to be doing for the future. Right now, I'm only maybe 20 pages or so into it, but I'm excited. Plus, with that, I'm just now downloading Helldivers 2, which I'm also excited to play. That game seemed always fun to me. I've been seeing so many memes for that franchise forever, how it's very similar to Starship Troopers and, all that good stuff. And I've been dying to play a multiplayer game again that's, centered more around like horde mode kind of style, not really competitive like shooter or anything like that. So Helldivers was always on my list as well. So I'm glad to play that and talk about that when I can experience that next week. And you know that's basically it for coming up. Other than that, I've been playing Chrono Trigger. That's been really fun. One of the best RPGs you could ever hope to play. It needs to get remade. It just needs to be remade in some fashion, and I would just love to see that, because there's a lot of games that get remade and they're not done in a well fashion that's even contributes to the original, or they're done super one to one, or they excel in some way, and that's super great. Chrono Trigger needs to be one of the ones that just excels, because there's so many facets of it that make it really difficult. And honestly, I think because Square Enix now has a really good track record with Final Fantasy Reborn and its combat system, with the synergy attacks and the dual attacks and everything else the characters can do just on their own. I think this is the perfect way for them to get that same team, that same dev team, and make a Chrono Trigger remake. Because the combat in Chrono Trigger is very similar to the ATB system that you have in Final Fantasy 7, and so I'm thinking of Fallout now that the TV show's here. But Chrono Trigger needs to be remade. Right now, my current playthrough just got to Magus' castle, and so I'm excited to, beat all of the three bosses here, Slash and Flea. I think there's might be one more I'm forgetting before fighting Magnus. And I just really want to see this game done in a really great art style, like 3D art style, especially because it's Akira Toriyama. Like of course, it's very similar to that style. He did it. I just love it. No, I don't think it needs to be like one-to-one, like hand-drawn anime style or anything similar like that. Just to be a little more authentic to what the original game is. But like have a few cutscenes, expanded and drawn out that are like really spectacular in that same style, and then do some like in-game cutscene stuff. Yeah, that's what I think they should do. While we're on the topic of Akira Toriyama, rest in peace. I finally finished my run of reading the Dragon Ball original manga. I read through all 16 original chapters, and it was heartbreaking, heartbreaking. And it was actually, really cute to see that there was a little teaser for Dragon Ball Z even towards the end. I wasn't super knowledgeable on the publishing of Dragon Ball versus Dragon Ball Z, so I didn't know he knew about extending it. I kind of figured maybe the publisher would make him do that for him, but he was planning on it. That's pretty great. It feels nice to experience Goku's first rivalry, with Piccolo and the Red Ribbon Army and Tien, Yamcha, seeing like them fighting each other, not being like friends and all that before. Like that's the one thing about Dragon Ball. It's literally Goku just making friends. That's the one thing. It's the only thing he does. Every other anime, it's like, oh, we're just gonna beat you and everyone will hate each other. But Goku just makes everybody his friend. That's crazy. I didn't know Yajirobe joined the Budokai Tenkaichi for like the first round. I didn't know that. That was really actually kind of fun seeing him go out of that way because you don't see him ever again. You almost never see him. He's a little bit in Dragon Ball Z, but you don't really see a lot of Yajirobe, and that's a little sad. He lives with Korin, the lovers. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna continue reading with Dragon Ball Z. I'm pretty versed on the Dragon Ball Z story, and I think for Sparking Zero, we're probably gonna get some kind of story mode along the same lines. So I'm not sure I'm gonna read the manga, quite so soon. I'm also excited for whatever characters they're gonna announce for that game. I think that they should do a lot of costumes or characters based from the Dragon Ball manga. For instance, maybe not a regular Piccolo costume, like a King Piccolo costume or something along that lines. That might be pretty decent. I'd like to see that. Oh, and certainly like a Master Roshi's person that they can imposters, Jackie Chun, or Goku's original like adult costume that he wears when he just enters the third Budokai Tenkaichi. Little things like that I think would be really great. Gohan, Grandpa Gohan, all the Dragon Ball characters should be represented in some way. It just needs to happen. It's they make them all the characters, every character. The dog mare, make the dog mare a character. Make the giant dinosaurs, monsters, the fishes, all of them. Just make it a big battle royale. That's what I think. So yeah, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. It's really great to honor him by going through his entire catalog again of some of his stuff. Sandland is still coming out, the video game, so I'm gonna try and get that. I might read the manga as well, just one of the two. Really unsure, but Akira Toriyama, rest in peace. It's been really great going through these your catalog again, all these things that you contributed, and did you guys know that RuneScape has lore, I guess? I suppose. They're making a tabletop RPG game of it. So I was never big into RuneScape, not growing up. But what is it? Um, Steamforged Games announced that they're making one. Not a whole lot of information about it now, but I think we're gonna get some updates. I signed up for the update list when they put that out, but I'm excited to see what that looks like. I trust the quality of the stuff they put out. For the most part, they do kind of have small issues with their publishing stuff and how they print out their books. I got the Dark Souls book up there, and I would like to get this actually because I want to see what the lore for RuneScape is like. I'm not gonna read the wiki. I'm gonna get the book now. That's what I'm gonna do. So that's really cool. And we also have the Adventure Time Kickstarter for the role-playing game reaching its goal of 100,000. That's pretty cool. It's, 3 times that now at the recording of this video. So it's probably going to be, maybe almost to 1 million by the end of the month. I don't really think so. It's fully funded. But I'm excited to see what kind of updates they have for it, the new stuff they usually add. I haven't really gone through the whole Kickstarter for this particular one, just because I don't really know if I'm gonna get it. I've never watched Adventure Time, but I'm super intrigued by a tabletop game made by it or inspired by it, based on the 5e edition, the Dungeons and Dragons based off of. Also, the Mothership and the Batman tabletop games have updated me that they're going to be shipped. I backed those ones certainly, so I'm hoping to get unboxing videos or something along those lines for these. Just show them off in some way for the podcast. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, I'm not sure about the RuneScape or the Adventure Time ones, but certainly for Batman and the Mothership, which is like a horror tabletop, I will be featuring them some way in the podcast when I get them. So really, I'm looking for that. And there's other than that, there isn't a whole lot else to talk about. I've been trying to plan out what I'm going to be doing for the podcast preemptively. So I've been, renting books from the library and, planning out the games that'll come along that. And then the RPG stuff coming out is also pretty cool. That's a little more haphazard and, random. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with those. But I do for the future have plans on reading some of the Bloodborne and Dark Souls comics because I've never done them in full, and they keep making them. I saw updates that they're putting out two new comics, one for Bloodborne and then one for Dark Souls, like coming out this year. And I probably only ever read maybe the first issue of the Dark Souls one and Bloodborne at some point, just like scanned them. Maybe I saw them in a physical um, but I want to see what they have to offer in terms of their full story, and it'd be nice to catch up on them. I've been trying to, deviate from manga for a bit, especially after reading all of Dragon Ball, and trying to keep up with manga as it comes out. For the podcast is a little more hectic. We have Berserk and Black Clover coming out in the end of the month, so I'm really, really excited to be talking about those. It's been so long since we've had anything to do with those mangas. And then I've tried to read the comics for the boys, but sometime around the Christmas time is when I tried to do that. And then when the podcast got a regular kind of schedule on the Fridays now, I think I'm going to try and get that finished for the most part. Last thing I remember was I don't even know the last thing I remember for the comics. I'm gonna have to read them again, but I'm excited for the show to come back, season 4. Yeah, next week's episode will most likely be a Hell Divers, Starship Troopers kind of montage little thing, hopefully. Other than that, you guys all stay safe out there. Keep your spirits high and, keep doing the best you can day by day. Tell me what you're reading. Tell me what you're playing. What's coming out that you're looking forward to, and what should I read or play to talk about here? What's something that you guys think that I would like, This has been episode 31 of the Gamer Librarian Podcast. Be sure to subscribe for updates on future episode releases. Leave a like and comment on what games or books I should talk about in the future. Thank you, and see you next time.